Works begin to transform Matagara Bridge into Perth's newest adrenaline-pumping attraction. And Docker Nat 5's hamstring injury leaves his Derby date with destiny in.
This is 10 News First Perth with Narelda Jacobs.
Good evening. A talented young Perth basketballer has been killed in a horror crash that left his car barely recognisable. Friends and family say Joel Burton was larger than life. Loved ones gathering at the heartbreaking scene.
The aftermath of an horrific crash, which claimed the life of a promising basketball player with the court at his feet.
He was bubbly and, a good bloke to be around. A lot of fun.
Joel Burton turned down a scholarship with an American college to stay in Perth. He turned 18 just a week ago and was behind the wheel of this Nissan Patrol last night when it hit a curb in Riverton, slamming into a tree.
There's like a bomb or something, so we ran outside and we saw the car. I had no slippers and everything. There was glasses everywhere.
I was on my phone and then I heard a loud bang or like a crash or something, and I felt like the house shake a little bit.
The impact crushing the four-wheel drive. Pieces of the wreck strewn across the road.
All the front end and the bumpers and everything went inside the passenger seat and opened the door. So he was stuck. We tried to take him out, we couldn't because he's stuck.
Despite their efforts, Joel couldn't be saved. His heartbroken family this morning laid flowers in his memory. His mates, inconsolable.
I don't think I'll ever get over it. It's like losing a family member. It's terrible.
10 News First has been told the teenager was at a party with mates but took off despite attempts to try to stop him. Police investigations continue. Alexandra Ristway for 10 News First.
While West Australians ventured out for the first normal Saturday night in months, Victoria's COVID-19 measures are getting tougher. Any returned travellers who refuse a test will be forced to extend their hotel quarantine by 10 more days. With 49 new cases today, that state government is considering whether to enforce stay-at-home orders in Melbourne's hotspots. But there is some good news. A less invasive Australian First testing method is now being used.
Instead of an uncomfortable nose and throat swab, those most at risk of catching coronavirus now have an easier option. For the first time, saliva samples are being collected at 19 hotspots across Melbourne and at quarantine hotels.
That's a first for our country, and I think it'll be leading the world in many ways.
The Victorian Premier says the new collection method will see fewer returned travellers refuse to take the test. Most of those who've declined have been children, but Daniel Andrews has made testing in hotel quarantine compulsory anyway. Those who refuse a test will be forced to stay an extra 10 days.
I don't think too many people are going to make that choice.
Victoria has 49 new cases of coronavirus, but a revision of 8 false positive cases brings the overall increase to 41. 2 schools have been impacted by cases linked to a family outbreak, while 1 case has been linked to an outbreak at a Coles distribution centre.
We'll need to review that in detail today. It's a big facility. It has a lot of staff.
The Royal Melbourne Hospital and parts of Flinders Street Station have also undergone thorough cleaning after a nurse and a Metro Trains worker were confirmed positive yesterday. In suburbs where coronavirus is spreading fastest, religious is the push to encourage screening.
So we are an army of faith leaders that are knocking on doors as we speak, and we're encouraging everyone to do this test.
And all 64 military officers deployed to testing sites are now collecting samples after undergoing pandemic training. Victoria has been processing up to 22,000 tests a day, but that capacity has increased to at least 25,000 with the help of labs in other states, including New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia and Tasmania. The government says suburban lockdowns may be considered.
Just because you want it to be over doesn't mean it is.
But roadblocks out of coronavirus hotspots would be a last resort. Estelle Lewis for 10 News First.
The US has passed a terrifying new COVID-19 milestone, clocking up 2.5 million cases. Last night we told you about Florida recording a whopping 9,000 new infections. Well, tonight it's even worse, which means restrictions lifted there are now being reimposed.
Just weeks after opening up, parts of Florida are closing down. 9,500 cases today, another dismal high. The Miami mayor is considering a stay-at-home order. He's already ordered beaches to close for the Independence Day long weekend and told bars to stop selling alcohol.
A lot of them have been packed and it's really been out of hand.
Across America, positive cases today hit 2.5 million. The death toll passed 125,000. Nevada, South Carolina and Georgia today joining Florida, recording record numbers of new infections.
Did the reopening happen too early?
I know there's a temptation to associate the new cases in the Sun Belt with reopening, but it's important to remember that states like Florida and like Texas actually began to open up in early May.
The president was on the golf course saying nothing publicly about the pandemic, instead using Twitter to post wanted posters of Black Lives Matter protesters who vandalised property outside the White House. A week on from Trump's controversial rally in Tulsa, several campaign staff have now been quarantined and told they can't come back until they test negative for COVID-19.
And I don't hold rallies because it is the reason why we're in such trouble. I've gone out responsibly. I go out and I wear this mask when I go out.
And in California today, Disneyland staff rallied in their cars, demanding more protection when the theme park eventually reopens.
The testing, we want on-property testing. We want temperatures taken for cast and guests. We want guests to wear masks.
They are now law in some parts of the US, but it's clear many people still don't want to wear them. Daniel Sutton for 10 News First.
Still in the US, a peaceful protest over the police killing of a black woman inside her home has turned deadly. Hundreds have been gathering and camping out in Louisville, Kentucky, calling for justice for Breonna Taylor, shot dead by officers as she slept in her own bed 3 months ago. Protesters were fired at by a solo gunman. A dozen shots rang out. Police confirmed one man was killed and another person injured, but there are still no details about the gunman or whether he's still on the loose. A man has been killed and his ex-girlfriend is behind bars, charged with murder. Payman Thagapur died after he was run down by a car and pinned to a brick wall at his apartment block.
Overcome with emotion, a man grieves his murdered mate.
He was best friend like my brother.
Payman Thagapur was allegedly killed at the hands of ex-partner Jacqueline Musa.
He was the legend. He was, like, as I said, affectionate. He was kind, very nice person.
Police claim the former lovers had a fiery argument inside Mr Thagapur's apartment block in Wentworth Point in Sydney's west. It allegedly turned violent when Musa drove her car at the 30-year-old, pinning him against a brick wall in the basement.
I heard a loud bang, sounded like something hit the building. Then not long after that, sirens came blasting down the street.
Police were first on scene and attempted CPR, but Mr Thagapur couldn't be saved.
Yeah, the scene was obviously very chaotic and quite traumatic.
Musa was also treated for a fractured wrist before being arrested and charged with murder. Witnesses to the crash say she appeared emotionless at the scene.
There was no shock. There was not really any anger either, just, you know, something that just happened.
Police have told 10 News First that there is no documented history of violence or threats between the pair. It would seem this alleged outburst was as shocking as it was sudden. Musa's family was entirely unaware of the incident.
What sort of person is Jacqueline?
She's my mother.
Yeah.
She's normal. Like, there's no matter. What are you talking about?
The 44-year-old didn't appear when mentioned in court today, but police are confident their case against her is a strong one.
The entire incident was captured on CCTV and a number of witnesses who were in the apartment complex.
People who'll no doubt struggle to put the horror of this alleged domestic violence attack behind them. Michael Hammond for 10 News First.
And if you're someone you know is a victim of domestic violence, there is support called the 24-hour hotline 1800-RESPECT. That's 1800 737 732. The Social Services Minister has been forced to reject reports unemployment benefits will be raised by $75 a week. Instead, the financial future of those on JobKeeper remains up in the air.
Australians woke up on Sunday to the news the government is considering a $75 permanent increase to welfare payments. Welcome news because the current New Start.
It is an inadequate payment. It doesn't allow people to live with dignity.
Everybody knows in their heart, including the Prime Minister, that we cannot go back to the brutality of trying to live on just $40 a day.
But the report in the News Corp papers was swiftly shot down.
Given I'm the Social Services Minister, you'd like to think that I'd be aware of it. So it's factually incorrect. And right now, my focus, as the whole government's focus is on, is to help Australians to get through this pandemic.
The leak clearly didn't come from the responsible minister.
The Morrison government needs to stop playing cruel games with over 2 million people in Australia.
Every day the government is being questioned about the future of JobKeeper beyond its September cut-off date.
At the time, we said they were targeted, they were temporary, they were measured, and they still are, and we are working in that environment of transition at the moment. We are not looking at the long term.
The government has received a final draft of a review into JobKeeper, but it's keeping a lid on its findings until the end of July. This is when the Treasurer will announce what lies ahead. But the opposition wants answers now.
You can't keep a secret like that until after the Eden Monero by-election. Scott Morrison needs to come clean.
Police are hunting 4 young men who smashed up 2 cars parked outside a Butler home. Security vision shows the group, with faces covered, appear to throw rocks at a vehicle on the verge before turning on another parked in the driveway. Owners say it's the second time their property has been targeted in less than a fortnight. Work's about to begin on Perth's newest attraction, transforming Matagara Bridge into a mammoth zip line. The $900,000 adrenaline-fuelled project is hoped to be a major tourism pull.
WA thrill seekers one step closer to their next adrenaline rush.
Exciting new initiative for Perth. I think a lot of people will take up the challenge.
The Matagara Bridge climb and zip line is finally within reach, with construction on Perth's newest attraction beginning next week.
It'll be similar to the bridge walk in Sydney, where you'll be having to get a harness on and get the appropriate outfit.
The 314-step trek takes you 60 metres up to a glass viewing platform. That's where the dual zip line will launch from, flying 400 metres through the air at speeds of up to 100 k's an hour, landing at the Burswood foreshore. It's hoped the attraction will be a boost for our struggling tourism sector.
I'm hopeful, I'm very optimistic that the rest of the country will get on top of community spread and hopefully by summer we'll be looking good for visitors.
Construction will cost around $900,000, money left over from the bridge build. Ticket prices are not yet known, but it will be less than the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb, which is around $200. Well, the zipline's expected to be open by early next year in summer, so hopefully the grand opening will avoid this kind of gloomy weather. As for who's going to try it out first, well, that's still up for grabs.
I'm actually normally afraid of heights, but I will do the zip line. I might let the Premier have the first one, I think.
Brendan Crew for 10 News First.
Still to come, the latest on the search for a sailor who fell overboard off the coast of Queensland. The researchers making progress treating one of our deadliest cancers. How COVID-19 is putting home birth back on the agenda. And we'll take you on an exclusive tour of the country's newest national park.
It's the therapy robot doing big things for children with autism. Helping transform students who struggle with social skills.
Teachers can't do what that robot can do.
And it's already working wonders in a WA classroom. Find out how Monday on Perth's 10 News First.
A major search and rescue operation is continuing off the coast of central Queensland tonight to find a 54-year-old man who fell from a yacht. He went overboard south of Gladstone yesterday morning. A distress call was made around 10 o'clock. Water police, the rescue chopper and volunteer vessels are all part of the search, but bad weather is making it difficult. Cyber safety will get a $10 million boost after reports of online abuse tripled this year. A government survey found that during the pandemic, Australians are using the internet more, and there's an increase in negative online experiences, especially the sharing of intimate photos without consent. The federal funding will bolster the e-safety website and support teams trying to combat image-based abuse and cyberbullying. Lung cancer is one of the most deadly, often diagnosed in its late stages. The best treatment is only effective in a third of cases, but trials of a new combination of drugs is giving hope.
Jennifer is one of the lucky ones. Given just months to live, it's been 3.5 years since she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer.
My initial tumour in my lungs was about the size of an orange. Now they're not even sure whether there's this tumour left, whether it's just scar tissue and it's about the size of my thumbnail.
But her story isn't the norm. The most common treatment for lung cancer is platinum-based chemotherapy. In most people, the drugs don't work.
It tells you a lot about how aggressive this disease is, that the best drugs that we have are only really good for 30% of the patients.
But new research is discovering why. In the lab, scientists have found lung cancer cells resistant to the chemo had high levels of an enzyme called P70S6K. By blocking or reducing the enzyme, they found the cell became more sensitive to the treatment.
That in the future we would be able to use this information to decide whether or not a patient would benefit from an additional drug that would block the activity of this enzyme.
But they also found this combination of drugs would not be effective in some patients where the cells had mutated, which doctors could test for before starting a therapy. This new research paves the way for clinicians to be precise in the drugs they use in which patients, with hopes eventually people with lung cancer will have treatments tailor-made just for them. A key step forward in the search for a cure. Sydney Pede for 10 News First.
The pandemic has driven an increase in demand for home births for low-risk pregnancies. But unlike the UK and New Zealand, most women here don't have access to publicly funded home births, despite research finding them just as safe as hospital births.
It's the unmistakable sound of a mother's joy and relief.
The candles were on and the music was on, and it's like, okay, this is going to be pretty easy.
The midwife said it was a textbook perfect delivery, and Ingrid believes it was the easiest of her 3 births.
I think it actually maybe brought on the labour faster or something because I was so relaxed and the oxytocin was kicking in.
Baby Arcadia was the first to be born as part of a free public hospital home birth service in Western Sydney. And having a backup plan got Dad over the line.
So worst case, you can go to hospital anyway, and even if the last minute, if you change your mind, you're not locked into it.
To be eligible, mums must be healthy, low risk, be having a natural birth and live close to a hospital.
There are only 16 publicly funded home birth programs around the country.
But there are none in Queensland, nor are there rebates for private midwives who are keen to deliver babies at home. As with most things, COVID-19 has played a role. It's increasing the demand for home births. Hospitals around the country have various restrictions as to how many people can be with mum while she gives birth and whether visitors are allowed. Then, of course, there are parents who are just anxious about being in a hospital environment.
There's been a massive uptick in the inquiries we're seeing and in the demand for home birth.
In the UK, home birth rates are about 3%. It's 5% in New Zealand. In Australia, it's less than 0.5%.
All women should have access to a publicly funded home birth. It's such an amazing thing for them to experience, and if that's what they want for their birth, then we should be able to offer it.
The federal government is currently reviewing a plan to provide Medicare rebates to private midwives. Without it, home births cost parents around $5,000. Antoinette Latouth for 10 News First.
Heavy rain and strong winds are already hitting the southwest, but we're being warned the worst is yet to come. Amanda Jason is here with all the details. Amanda, we could be in for a wild night.
It certainly will be, Narelda. We have severe weather warnings in place for dangerous wind gusts of up to 125 kilometres per hour. Even though we saw a cold front moving through this morning, this second front will be even stronger. Now, showers have been persistent today. In fact, we've now seen 26 millimetres of rain in Perth, and the rain has just picked up again across the city. Heavy rain and thunderstorms with dangerous winds expected tonight. As you can see on the forecast, this front will hit the far southwest just before midnight, and that will continue westward as the evening progresses well into the early hours of tomorrow morning. So the worst of the weather will actually be overnight tonight and first up tomorrow morning. Now today we only managed to get to 17 degrees across the city. Overnight temperatures dipping down to 14.5. Geraldton made it to 23. We got to 19 degrees in Albany and 24 in Esperance, but I'll have more details on the weather ahead a little later in the bulletin, Narelda.
Thanks, Amanda. We'll see you again then. Up next, what Donald Trump did to upset the Rolling Stones. The police officer injured in a Glasgow stabbing rampage tells his story. Some of the world's biggest music stars take on COVID-19 and why a global tech giant is going after a plucky Aussie startup. India has passed 500,000 known COVID-19 infections, with the capital New Delhi the epicentre. About a third of the city's total number of cases have been reported in the past week, putting dozens of hospitals at breaking point. And if that wasn't enough, part of Delhi is dealing with an unprecedented outbreak of locusts, as India experiences its worst invasion of the insects in decades. Millions of people are back indoors in China's Hubei province, but this time because of deadly flooding. The former coronavirus epicentre is among multiple provinces hit by flash flooding and landslides that have killed 80. Meteorologists are forecasting more torrential rain over areas inhabited by tens of millions of people. Princeton University says it will remove the name of former US President Woodrow Wilson from several of its buildings because of his policies on race. Wilson was president during World War I and helped establish the League of Nations, which aimed to create world peace. But he also supported segregation and barred black students from studying at Princeton as the university's president. He's the latest historic leader removed after calls to end racism following the death of George Floyd. The Rolling Stones are threatening to sue Donald Trump if he keeps using their songs at his rallies. The band's legal team says it's taking further steps after the Trump campaign ignored previous cease and desist letters. The US president used the hit "You Can't Always Get What You Want" during a rally in Oklahoma. The family of rock legend Tom Petty also objected to Trump using the song "I Won't Back Down" at the same event. The police officer who was critically injured in a stabbing attack inside a Glasgow hotel used to house asylum seekers has described the scene as something he will never forget. Constable David White was among 6 people injured by a resident. Another asylum seeker says he'd warned staff about a possible attack.
Suddenly one day he said, I want to attack them. I want to attack that room next to me, that room on the top of me. And he said, I want to attack the hotel workers.
The knifeman was eventually shot dead by police. His 6 victims, including Constable White, are recovering in hospital. Some of the world's biggest stars have united for a 2-hour virtual fundraising concert to help vulnerable communities during the coronavirus pandemic. Hosted by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the Global Goal event followed a historic summit that raised more than $10 billion from governments, corporations and philanthropists. The founders of a new Australian business called Pineapple are crushed that tech giant Apple is threatening legal action over its name. Lawyers claim the brand name Pineapple sounds too familiar.
Ready to launch online, it's crunch time. But multinational tech giant Apple may have a small bone to pick.
We were really shocked when we got a legal letter from Apple saying that they didn't want us to use the name Pineapple.
They claim Apple opposed the Pineapple trademark with IP Australia, a government-run intellectual property department.
Oh, this battle could go for a long time and Apple might be dragging us through a very expensive process.
So what's at the core of Apple's concern?
Not sure what Apple's issue is. At the moment, with the opposition, they've just filed that they will oppose it.
Despite the setback, Pineapple launched this weekend anyway.
Yeah, we're good to go.
It's a website aiming to help Aussies manage their money and savings.
And people told us that they loved Pineapple because it stood for fun, sun and holidays, which is often a most common savings goal for young people.
In a bid to gain support, Pineapple is now pleading for Aussies to back the local business on social media by using the hashtag #SaveAPineapple. Food for thought this startup didn't see coming.
Oh, seriously, what the fruit?
Christina Costalis for 10 News First.
Still to come, a Perth couple's ultimate makeover for cancer research. Plus, the suburban antique shop find leading historians on a nationwide search. And never mind the country's closed borders, you can now experience Africa's savannah at an Australian zoo. The new owners of a house in Sydney South will have a lot of cleaning up to do after a young man lost control of his car and crashed into their front yard. Around 10:30 last night, the P-plater mounted the footpath, ploughed through a brick wall and into a recently sold property. The driver was uninjured and breath tested, returning a negative result. A crash in South Australia's mid-north has led to the arrest of an allegedly drunk and disqualified driver with a blood alcohol reading more than 4 times the legal limit. The 28-year-old Victorian man was also slapped with a $1,000 fine for breaching his self-isolation requirements. He only arrived in South Australia 8 days ago. A 62-year-old driving instructor has been arrested in Adelaide, accused of assaulting 2 teenage learner drivers during lessons. Police charging him with 9 counts of indecent assault and 1 count of indecent behaviour. He's been released on bail with strict conditions and will face court in August. A young Perth woman has chopped her waist-length locks for charity, going bald with her partner who's battling cancer. Max Qua and Matt Elton have raised $22,000 and counting as they sock it to sarcoma.
For 5 years, Max Qua hadn't cut her waist-length tresses, but her love for her partner Matt Elton made her get the chop. The young couple turning hairdressers for a day to go bald for sarcoma.
I think we're a very special couple. I think she's a very special lady and still looks amazing without any hair.
I'm just going to keep on feeling my head for a while. It just feels really different, I guess. I think no matter what I do to his face, owing to his hair, his face is still going to look good.
23-year-old Matt was first diagnosed with synovial sarcoma when he was a university student, aged 18. A month ago, doctors told him the cancer was back.
So sarcoma itself is a rare cancer, making up 1% of all cancers. But then synovial sarcoma, you basically have a 0.0013. It's very specific.
This time around, he has the support of his girlfriend as he goes through chemotherapy and faces the possibility of surgery. Their goal to raise awareness and money to pay for more research into the disease.
What Matt has to go through and, I'd do anything for him. So it just seems like such a small thing to do.
All funds go to Sock It to Sarcoma. Donations can be made online. Alexandra Ristway for 10 News First.
They can pull off the new do. Perth historians are playing detective to name a mysterious soldier immortalised in a recently discovered wartime portrait. They say clues hidden in the photo could be the key to unlocking his identity, but they need the public's help.
A piece of World War I history unearthed in a suburban antique store.
This fella was sitting on an armchair and caught my attention straight away. I think his kind of captivating eyes and his slight grin just stopped me in my tracks.
A young man captured in his uniform as he prepares to go to war. While his face is striking, his identity is unknown. Now, historians at the Museum of Perth are on a mission to find out who this soldier was and reunite the portrait with his family.
It's pretty obvious that somebody was very proud of this young man and loved him very much.
The photo is unusual for its size and quality and would have been expensive at the time it was produced. Hidden within the frame are clues which could pinpoint who he was. It's believed a badge could hint at his rank, and a label behind the photo names a Sydney portrait studio.
So that was a real eureka moment. That gives our researcher some really strong leads to be able to track down his family.
The soldier's stature, another clue.
He appears so tiny that the enlistment standards were lowered in mid-1915, making me think that he might have enlisted at least around that time or a bit later.
Researchers are confident they can narrow down who this digger is, but they need the public's help. They're hoping his image will be shared online and someone will recognise him.
If it happens to be your father or your grandfather or your great-uncle, or if you think you may have seen a photograph like this hanging in your grandmother's house at some point, please get in touch with the Museum of Perth, because it may just be that he's your relative.
Claire Durl for 10 News First.
Our borders might be closed, but you can still get a taste of the African savannah at Taronga Zoo. The big cats are back for the first time in 5 years.
They're playful and hungry. Meet Lawazi and Atto. They're 2-year-old brothers who will call Taronga Zoo their new home. The African Savannah Precinct is now open to the public after being closed for 5 years, which means visitors can finally get a glimpse of the kings of the big cats.
You get to see them out here frolicking, chasing each other, wrestling, climbing the trees, just having such a great time in their brand new habitat.
The open space for the lions has heated areas to keep the pair warm during winter, as well as fallen trees for them to play and rest on.
It's so exciting to have this brand new big state-of-the-art habitat for our lions. They've got so much room to roam around.
The design of the savannah has been inspired by the Kenyan community. It's been built with the latest information on behavioural science, so visitors can have the best views of the animals.
We are so happy that a small part of northern Kenya is in Australia.
Right behind the savannah is the new waterhole, where you can meet giraffes, meerkats and fennec foxes. And with Lawazi and Atto only settling in, zookeepers already have plans for a new member.
But shortly we'll be bringing some girls down, and then of course we'll create a pride of lions.
Amna Yang for 10 News First.
It's time for sport now with Ros Kelly. And Ros, a tough weekend for the Eagles and Dockers.
Narelda, a star Eagle, is suspended while the Dockers are facing time without their captain. More details next. Plus, Charlie Cameron flies high against his old side. Who spoiled Jamie Wincup's milestone race in the supercar? Good evening. It's been quite an eventful weekend. We're seeing 3 cold fronts hitting the west coast in the space of around 48 hours. Now, the front that's coming through tonight will be even stronger than what we saw this morning. We still are seeing showers in the wake of that first front, and we're still going to be seeing some heavy rain over the next few hours, but it will begin to pick up a little more heavily in the next few hours to come. Now, tomorrow, once that system moves a little further eastward, we will begin to see conditions clear, although we will be maintaining a cooler southwesterly wind flow, so that will allow some cooler temperatures. In the way of rainfall, we'll see the heaviest falls coming through overnight tonight and in the early hours of tomorrow morning. The heaviest rain for the lower west and southwest, particularly wherever we see the isolated thunderstorms. And there is a severe weather warning in place for potentially just damaging winds, or I should say dangerous winds, of up to 125 kilometres per hour. Now, elsewhere across the country, it's a much more settled picture. It'll be fine in Brisbane with a top of 22, a shower or two for Sydney and a top of 17, partly cloudy in Canberra. Melbourne will see a sunny day, very cold overnight temperatures, then a top of 15 degrees, 14 and mostly sunny for Hobart, clear conditions and a top of 15 degrees on the way for Adelaide. Now, across the state tomorrow, the southwest land division will see showers and possible thunderstorms, and then we'll see that moving into the Gascoyne, the Goldfields, even hitting the Eucla. In fact, we could even see some showers getting into the western Pilbara. As I've mentioned, the heaviest rain will be for the lower west and the southwest. In fact, we could see widespread falls of 25 to 50 millimetres in a 24-hour period. Now, on the waters, the winds will be westerly, getting up to 40 knots. They could reach 50 knots with any severe thunderstorms. Winds will ease a little, though, as we head into the afternoon, and seas will be to 4 metres. Sunrise tomorrow morning will be at 7:18 a.m. This is the rain radar overnight and into tomorrow morning. You can see that a burst of heavier rain will actually move through in the middle of the night, and that's when we could see the strongest winds as well. So it might sound a little bit noisy overnight with all that wild weather going on. By the afternoon, though, the showers really do begin to ease, and you might even see a little bit of sunshine moving through as you head into the afternoon, and certainly by the evening things will clear out. So as we look a little bit further ahead, by Tuesday it will be a dry start to the day, although it could be a little bit cloudy with showers developing into the afternoon and evening. On Wednesday, just a shower or two, a top of 18 degrees, and then some drier conditions into the second half of the week, although we could see some more storms next weekend. But for the time being, Narelda, we're just getting through the next 24 hours.
More now on tonight's top stories. Police want to speak to witnesses to a horror crash in Riverton, which claimed the life of a promising young basketballer. 49 new COVID cases for Victoria. Tough restrictions now being considered for suburbs at the centre of the outbreaks. And later, calls for more help for struggling kids. The new program to stop students with learning difficulties from falling through the cracks. Friends and family of a young man killed in a crash in Perth's southern suburbs are tonight remembering him as a giant talent with a personality to match. Joel Burton had only just turned 18. The cause is still being investigated.
Barely recognisable. The accident that left the Nissan Patrol this way, claiming the life of a young and talented basketballer.
He was going to go to America for college and stuff. So he had every opportunity, you know, at his fingertips.
Joel Burton instead chose to stay in Perth. He turned 18 barely a week ago. It's understood he had just left a party when overnight his car ploughed into a tree in Riverton.
There's like a bomb or something, so we ran outside and we saw the car. I had no slippers and everything. There was glasses everywhere.
I was on my phone and then I heard a loud bang or like a crash or something, and I felt like the house shake a little bit.
The impact tearing the four-wheel drive apart. Nothing could be done to save its teenage driver. Family and friends this morning left inconsolable.
I don't think I'll ever get over it. It's like losing a family member. It's terrible.
Major crash officers are investigating. Witnesses are asked to contact them. Alexandra Ristway for 10 News First.
The Matagara Bridge will soon be transformed into an adrenaline-packed attraction. Construction will start this week on a glass viewing platform, which will be the launch pad for a dual zip line running 400 metres to the Burswood foreshore. Thrill seekers will reach speeds of up to 100 k's an hour on their way down.
Very exciting new initiative for Perth. I think a lot of people will take up the challenge.
The attraction is expected to be open to the public early next year. Return travellers to Victoria who refuse to be tested for COVID-19 will be forced to spend an extra 10 days in hotel quarantine. It comes amid 49 new infections. The Premier saying they're waiting on results of 40,000 tests carried out across Melbourne hotspots to see if more drastic measures need to be taken.
As testing increases, so too do the number of COVID-19 cases.
Certainly numbers today are big and they've increased day on day.
49 were detected in Victoria in the past 24 hours. 4 are linked to known outbreaks. 26 were found through routine testing, and of most concern, the cause of 19 is still being investigated.
It's much like a bushfire. Putting this out is very challenging. Containing it, though, is something that we can do.
Roughly 3 out of 10 return travellers in hotel quarantine in Victoria have refused to be tested. But now anyone who doesn't comply will be forced to stay in quarantine for an extra 10 days. And the Premier hasn't ruled out fines.
That option remains open to us, and we would look at that if we needed to. But everybody who's leaving today has been tested.
A small number of saliva testing kits have been rolled out, a less painful option than the current nasal swab, while more Defence Force members have been deployed as religious leaders spearhead a push to get the message out.
This is a test from God, and we always ask God to remove this pandemic from the world.
It's been made really accessible. Like, it wasn't very difficult to get here. It was like 2 minutes, and honestly, the line process wasn't not that long. It was fine.
Extra cleaning has been done at the Royal Melbourne's Emergency Department after a staff member tested positive, while 13 Metro Trains employees are isolating after a worker at Flinders Street Station became infected. They had no contact with passengers. So far, 11,000 people have been tested in this blitz targeting suburban hotspots, and at the moment, the average time to get those results back is 3 days. Authorities are hoping that wait time isn't putting people off being tested, because otherwise this could be a missed opportunity to stop the spread of the virus. The government is now waiting on the results of tens of thousands of tests before deciding what comes next, with tough new measures like locking down suburbs still being considered.
Just because you want it to be over doesn't mean that it is over.
Annie Kearney for 10 News First.
The government has today hosed down reports welfare recipients could be $75 a week better off. It comes as questions mount over the future of JobSeeker and JobKeeper.
The pressure is on once again for a permanent increase to welfare payments.
Everybody knows in their heart, including the Prime Minister, that we cannot go back to the brutality of trying to live on just $40 a day if you don't have a job.
Apparently, this push is also coming from inside the government, at least according to this headline. A report in the Sunday Telegraph suggesting a permanent $75 increase to job seeker payments is being considered.
It is an inadequate payment. It doesn't allow people to live with dignity.
But Anne Ruston moved quickly to put an end to speculation.
Given I'm the Social Services Minister, you'd like to think that I'd be aware of it. So it's factually incorrect, and right now my focus, as the whole government's focus is on, is to help Australians to get through this pandemic.
The Morrison government needs to stop playing cruel games with over 2 million people in Australia.
Every day questions are being asked about the future of JobKeeper beyond its September cut-off date. But the Social Services Minister wouldn't be drawn on the future when questioned today.
At the time we said they were targeted, they were temporary, they were measured, and they still are, and we are working in that environment of transition at the moment. We are not looking at the long term.
The government has received a final draft of a review into JobKeeper, but it's keeping a lid on its findings until the end of July. This is when the Treasurer will announce what lies ahead.
You can't keep a secret like that until after the Eden Monero by-election. Scott Morrison needs to come clean.
I assure the government that everybody today who was affected by the ravages of unemployment is thinking now about the future.
Stella Todorovic for 10 News First.
A terrifying car crash has been captured on camera. The driver of this Ford Falcon fell asleep at the wheel and ended up on the wrong side of a busy Melbourne highway. Dashcam pictures show the car veering onto the median strip and crashing into roadside safety barriers before ending up in oncoming traffic. Miraculously, the driver didn't hit any cars and was not seriously injured. Dyslexia advocates are calling for a new program to be introduced into more classrooms to stop students from falling through the cracks. The simple test would help teachers identify children likely to struggle with their literacy and lead to early intervention.
Little Oscar's got the playground down pat, but his dyslexia means he's finding it a bit harder when it comes to reading and writing.
It felt like you didn't feel the same like all your other friends. And it felt very frustrating.
Mum Melanie's worried her son is falling behind his classmates at a crucial point in his learning.
All children with dyslexia are very bright. So obviously, then you're looking at them thinking, why can't you do this? Why are we having trouble reading?
Dyslexia advocates say the condition can be overcome, provided it's identified early so kids can get proper support. But if ignored, the impact of struggling to read can be severe.
With anxiety, depression, cases of self-harm, it's very detrimental to the children and it prohibits future career outcomes.
The Queensland opposition wants to introduce a phonics test into Year 1 classrooms, which would help teachers identify students likely to have dyslexia. Similar programs have run in South Australia and shown a 92% diagnosis success rate.
It is important that we do secure these kids' future. It is important that we do everything possible to give our kids the best education.
The program would only cost $1 million to initiate, but would mean kids like Oscar could get back to focusing on the important stuff. Joe Hill for 10 News First.
Coming up next, Ros Kelly is back with all the rest of the day's sport, including a nasty injury to an All-Australian as the Cats and Demons play rough. The ACT after National Parks made its biggest ever private land purchase, a 150,000 hectare cattle station on the Queensland-New South Wales border. It's steeped in Indigenous and European history and coupled with Sturt National Park next door, it's a chance to save Australian wildlife and precious habitat on a grand scale.
They call this corner country, where the New South Wales, Queensland and South Australian borders meet. And we're tagging along as Environment Minister Matt Keane gets his first look at it. His new national park showcases red desert country and some of the oldest landscapes in Australia. Also unique to this place, depending on rainfall year to year, vast wetlands and semi-permanent lakes. The water comes from the Baloo River, which starts in the middle of nowhere in Queensland and ends in the middle of nowhere here. There's not an ecosystem like it in any other national park in New South Wales. The gateway to Corner Country is the outback town of Tibooburra, population officially 134. First Australians lived here for thousands of years, different desert mobs linked together as a nation. European explorers arrived in the mid-1800s. 2 Burke and Wills campsites are on this new park. By 1900, this was cattle country, with giant stations triple the size of Narriara. You talk to National Park staff and they say there's nothing obvious or grand about this place apart from the big skies, but there are little gems everywhere.
There's a stone tool flake there, Chris. So it's got jagged edges, sharp edges. So that's something that's been worked by hand. So probably a flake off the edge of a stone tool that was made potentially hundreds or thousands of years ago.
It's tough country, dry for years, but when it's wet, it explodes into life. The Karriapundi Swamp, the great drain of the Baloo River, is the jewel in this new park's crown. Tens of thousands of birds turn up in a wet year.
This Baloo overflow country has got species that aren't conserved well in New South Wales, and the dry country as well is different to what's reserved in Sturt National Park.
Well, this is the biggest single addition of private land to the National Park network in the state's history.
Wow, how did you get that through?
How did we get through? Hard negotiation, but we knew the importance of this piece of land. We knew the critically endangered species here. We knew the importance of the inland wetlands and the cultural and European values. So we just had to get it.
Professor Richard Kingsford, who spent his life in the air researching Australia's wetlands, is thrilled.
When we did aerial surveys over there, we've had more than 100,000 birds. It's really important to protect areas like this in Australia because we're losing areas in the Murray-Darling Basin, and there aren't many of these places that flood from free-flowing rivers the way this does and support incredible biodiversity.
If they get the conservation right here, along with the neighbouring Sturt National Park, there's a real chance to provide a safe haven for many of Australia's most endangered species. Not such a safe haven for humans yet. Once park staff assess their newest asset and the park has a name, they hope to welcome visitors this time next year.
Chris Bath with that stunning story.